Wife told me she wanted to experiment, I obliged, then she attempted to eat my feces. Throwaway account because my wife follows my regular account here. My, 28 meters, wife, 26F, and I have admittedly had very vanilla sex throughout our 3-year marriage. We had our first kid a year ago and it seriously slowed down our sex life. However, a little under a month ago she approached me about trying new things. She has been hanging out with a group of moms in our neighborhood and one of them told her that she and her husband tried pegging and it completely transformed their marriage. My wife told me that she wanted to try pegging as well to spice things up. At first I thought it was a joke, but soon realized she actually wanted to peg me. I had never done assplay before and had always lived by the philosophy that the anus is solely an exit, but my wife made it clear that this was important to her, so after a few days I obliged. That next weekend, she pegged me and everything was surprisingly enjoyable. Additionally, the week following the pegging was one of the best weeks we've had together since the birth of our child. We were back to our old sex life, doing things like having sex before work and even waking each other up with head. However, that next weekend she told me she wanted to peg me again. I was slightly confused as to why this last week of sex wasn't cutting it for her, but I agreed. This is when things took an extreme turn. During this second pegging while my wife was inside of me, she grabbed my hair, craned my neck to the right, and pressed our foreheads together. I had never seen her take control like this and thought it was very hot until she looked me in the eye and whispered, "I want your shit." I pulled my face away and asked her to repeat and she said, "I want you to shit on me." I pushed her off of me and asked her if she was joking and she started crying. I felt like a fucking dick because she thought I was kink shaming her. In a way, I was because I thought the request was far too extreme. I ended up leaving for the night and stayed with one of my close friends, but didn't tell him what happened. After that incident, my wife and I hardly talked all week unless it related to our son. At the end of the week, I asked my wife to talk about what happened. She told me again that she wanted me to shit on her and that it meant a lot to her. I thought it was sickening, but she claimed this was her deepest, darkest kink. I couldn't understand how and why my shit excited her, but she insisted that she has always wanted this. We fought about this for about a week and after watching some scat porn and reading articles by people who also shared this kink, I tried to put myself in my wife's shoes. I told her that I will shit on her if that is what will turn her on. She was so happy and even though I was still completely nauseated by this desire, I wanted to satisfy her. That brings us to tonight. We were having sex for the first time this week when I, regrettably, confessed to her that I had to take a shit. She perked up with a smile, sensed my discomfort, and began stroking my hair and whispering encouraging things to me. I still really didn't want to go through with it, but since I had promised her I pulled out and we ran to the bathroom. She got into the bathtub and I hung my ass over the side of the tub. I started pushing, but unsurprisingly found it very difficult to successfully shit on my wife. I turned my head around to see my wife staring up and smiling at me waiting for me to finish. With enough time, I was finally able to get a turd to start coming out. I could hear my wife breathing heavier beneath me as my asshole started opening. However, before the turd was able to drop on her chest, I felt a sensation around my asshole. I turned around and saw my wife, the love of my life, the mother of my son, attempting to catch my turd in her mouth as it fell out of my asshole. I was horrified that she would try to do this, and tried to pull the shit back into my body so she couldn't receive it in her mouth. Seeing what looked like an attempt by her to eat my shit brought me close to throwing up. As I clenched my butt cheeks together to try to stop the shit from reaching my wife, the clenching cut off a very small piece of my shit and I heard it land somewhere beneath me. I was too scared and disgusted to look at my wife to see what she had done with it, so I ran to the other bathroom to clean myself. As I was sitting in the other bathroom thinking about how I will ever be able to look my wife in the eye again, I heard footsteps approaching. My wife lightly knocked on the door. I didn't respond and was on the verge of throwing up the more I thought about what just happened. She walked away and then I got a text from her thanking me for fulfilling her wish and asking me to come to bed. I've been sitting in the living room typing this for the last half hour, scared to face my wife. We have plans to take our son to the zoo with another family tomorrow, but I don't think I can look at her after what she did to me. I feel deceived and violated by the woman I love and trust. During our initial conversations about this, there was never a question that my shit would go anywhere other than her chest. She knew how uncomfortable I was with this in the first place, yet she still tried to push the boundary that we had established. I would appreciate any feedback from anyone who has experienced a similar violation of trust from a loved one. I'm turning to this sub for advice because for obvious reasons, I cannot tell anyone that knows my wife and I. I know that some of you may find this humorous, but please serious comments only. This is something that could lead to the end of our marriage.